Hi, and welcome back to Devil's Advocate. I'm Tracy McLean-Lowe, and this is Alana Kitchikek. Hi, Alana.
Hello. Hello. How are you, my dear?
Well, it wasn't just that. Well, we're all good today, you know. All's well in Toronto.
Good,
So
good,
far,
good.
so
All
far.
is well in
Although,
sunny Toronto.
what do you mean sunny Toronto? Frickin' snowed earlier.
Well,
Or it
I
sleeted,
bought the blue sky with me today for everyone. So there you go.
Well, thanks for that. I must say, it does put a smile on my face. Very pretty shirt.
Oh, you darling. Yes, we were what were we discussing? We've been discussing all kinds of things, haven't we?
Of course, we started with we haven't really gone away from the war in Ukraine with Russia, and kind of topics that we're going to be going on is economics and nationalism and yada yada. So many things to unpack. Everybody else is talking about the battles and the war and who's killing whom and how many are dead, and there's just so much to unpack, really, and to feel that pain. It's just so sad, from Ukraine to Palestine to Yemen. It's just all so very, very sad. And we're kind of like taking our eye off the ball as far as the war goes. But like war and everything else, you know, fear, it's all driven by fear. But I think we ended on religion, you know, and said this for another day, and how religion affects wars and stuff like that. And excuse me while I hide my ugly mug. You can ask some questions if you like.
Cool.
Please do ask lots of questions.
It's interesting though, because like religion, we were saying, was it yesterday, we were having this small chit chat. You know, if you sort of look across all kinds of religion, they all have the same fundamental values. Treat thy neighbor as you would treat yourself. You know, have kindness, have compassion, respect your mother, respect your father, respect those who came before you. And then you wonder why it creates so many wars. Because if you look at these materials, they're all saying the same thing. And religion, from my point of view, is to love. That's what I think. Like Jesus was all about love thy neighbor, like you love thyself, take care of each other. You know, he made his flesh to bread and, you know, drink and my wine or whatever. You know, but you know,
Sorry,
that is
I'm not Catholic.
No,
so
but you know,
but
that's what it is. You know, it's all that that same basis across every religion. So then you wonder, why is it starting so many wars?
Well, yes, there a lot of people say it sort of like starts wars. I mean, I picked up this little bit of a cartoon here, and they say, but atheists and secular humanists claim that religion is the #1 cause of violence and war throughout the history of mankind. However, on the opposite side of the fence, or on a political ideological side of the fence, you oh, and where did that slide go? Please don't tell me I missed it out altogether. Where they turn around and say nationalism is the only religion that effectively still requires human sacrifice in war. And while I don't, there's various kinds of nationalism. I mean, you've got if you take a look at this little graphic here, got the economic. So your economic or your civic, I'm assuming that they mean here your sort of like infrastructure, your railway stations, your bus lines, your water, your gas, your electricity, those kind of things. And if you've got water and the sources, the actual resources for these things, those are the things that should be nationalized, because every country has to protect their own, pretty much like every country should have the right to have their own military to protect their borders. You never know what's going to happen. There's always somebody going to come along and say, I want this. And what did they do in Russia? They're saying, oh, we're Russian secularists, so we want to be part of Russia. That doesn't mean that the country in which you live or the rest of it wants, you know, you're separatists. You know, Russia can't now invade Ukraine just because there's 100,000 Russian separatists sitting on the border.
Right.
Because if you want to be part of Russia, you cannot take the Ukraine with you. Just move yourself. Like I said, I think in one of the other episodes. and that's Russia getting very nationalist in the fact that at one stage in their recent history, Ukraine was part of the USSR.
Yes.
And I think at some stage as well, also under Tsarist Russia, but it's been part of the Ottoman Empire, it's been part of the Russians, it's been Ukraine on its own, and all this country wants is its space back. And now Russia's saying, oh no, this is ours. Hang on a second. It wasn't yours then, it wasn't yours then, it wasn't yours. Just go away. This is still ours. Ottoman Empire doesn't exist anymore. This is part of us now. This is who we were.
Exactly. It's a greedy way to look at the world, to think that you can just infiltrate your idealizations onto a group of people. And it's just such a shame that it's got to that point of war, pretty much,
Pretty much.
It's sad that it's got there. I and I was even saying this to I was actually saying this to one of my drivers the other night. I said to him, you know what I think? He's like, what do you think? Because he was from Afghanistan. And so he knows war. And, whenever I meet people from Afghanistan, they're always so kind and sweet because they've come from that place of war and brutality. And, I said to him, you know what I think? I think that every leader and every politician should almost have a psychiatric assessment before they go and run a country. Through their mind, should they be running a country? Do they have the qualifications to run a country, and do they have the mind to run a country?
Here's the thing, you see, power corrupts absolutely, which is part of an expression that they use, and yes it does, and the problem is when one has absolute power and they are corrupted absolutely, no advice is good advice as far as they're concerned, because then they become paranoid, delusional, and kill everybody who suddenly suggests, or maybe we could do it differently.
Exactly. And it's a shame that people jump to, no, we have to start a war. I'm not getting what I want, so I'm going to make these people's lives a living hell because I'm not getting what I want. And that kind of mindset, it's so brutal and it's so angry and it's so bitter. And that's what's destroying our world. That's what humans do. We're such horrible creatures.
We're not very nice, really, at the end of the day, as you're looking at it. I mean, the 10 Commandments, and let me hide my ugly mug so people can read this. The first 5, you shall have no other gods, you shan't make idols, you'll not take the Lord's name in vain, remember the Sabbath day, keep it holy, yada, yada. And on your mother, those aren't specifically within the confines of either our national, international, or general law, legal or political system. But something like the last, up until not so long ago, at least 200 years ago, there were women specifically were punished for committing adultery, and they'd have to wander around with this big red letter A on their chest. And you'd feel like you're in, you feel like you're in some dystopian kind of period.
It's almost like to ridicule them, isn't it?
Now we've got divorce and stuff like that, but you still see a certain sect side. Oh no, the moment you have feminism, there's divorce, there's witchcraft, there's this, there's that, and that's why you end up, the ones that you do have, of course, you shall not murder or kill. You can't steal, you won't lie, and you won't. Well, coveting, because coveting is like jealousy. So you're basically coveting what your neighbor has. So you'll lie about your labor, maybe, to bear false witness, so you can steal his stuff. And then if that doesn't all work, you'll just kill him. So there are laws, around the world that tell us we can't do it. And like rightly said earlier, these are the same kind of laws that apply this is from the Old Testament, we're talking Moses, and the Old Testament, and the fact that of the Abrahamic religions, you've got Judaism, you've got Christianity, and you've got Islam. And all 3 of them, even though they all follow it to varying degrees and whatever, all 3 of them follow the 5 books of Moses, which is the first 5 books of the Bible, bearing in mind I don't know them all. I have read it, but again, I have a naive, possibly a more naive understanding. And you know, I didn't want to sit on my butt in a church on those
No.
hard pews and bending down and breaking my knees while everybody droned on and prayed. What do you know, you're not actually praying for anything. All you're doing is hurting my knee balls.
I remember the days. Yeah, I remember going to church and stuff like that. And my mum would it's interesting, as a native person, my mum would send me to like Bible camp. I think it was just to get rid of me and my sister. I literally like remember the songs up to this day, and like I kind of like want to break out into dance, but it was like this really cheesy song, and it was like, you can't get to heaven in a double-decker bus, and you can't get to heaven in a car. And then it's like,
you know,
there's only Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And it's like,
there's
good
the
Lord
Crusades.
Savior, you know.
Yeah.
But that is still drumming in my head. It's like stapled in my brain right up until the age now. I'm 27, and it's been in my head. Like
and yet here you've got the, you know, you've got to be all so nice and wonderful, but here, go kill, or give the Pope, give the Pope your money, so that you know, at the time there was a Pope out there saying, oh, give the church all your land and your money, and when you die at war, you'll immediately get into heaven. You know, this is not the way it works. As far as I know, the Jewish religion doesn't, you know, Pope and an imam and a priest, an imam and a rabbi walk into a bar. What are they having? Oh dear, stop recording.